Hello everyone and welcome to my first video on YouTube, and I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Nikola Stojanovic and you can call me Johnny. I graduated from medical school at the University of Belgrade, Serbia in 2019 with an excellent GPA of 3.5 out of 4, and I'm currently preparing Step 2 CK and finishing the 6-month long internship in Serbia before the state exam in Serbia, and I have enrolled in a PhD program in neuroscience. My special interests are neurology and internal medicine. I wanted to share with you that my exam was on October 15, 2020, and I got my score report 3 days ago. I scored 254, and I think I figured out at least some silver bullets for the exam. I want to share with you my strategies for studying, methods of tackling the questions, and tips on boosting your score quickly. And I will share the mistakes that I have made. Some of them were silly ones, but some were quite big. I wanted to make this video to answer all of your questions about the USMLE Step 1 exam, and I've got so many questions, and I hope to cover most of the issues in this video. And if I forget something, please ask me in the comment section or write me on my Instagram account listed in the description and at the end of this video. So, a little disclaimer before we continue, and that is that all of the resources noted in this video did not pay and does not pay me to do this video or to represent their products. I'm just telling my personal experience and my personal opinion about what is helpful for your dedicated period and the dedicated preparation of Step 1 exam. And I will start with this one. Big things make you ready to pass the exam, but knowing the specific details boost your score above the average. And let's start with timing. There are no really rules about how long it will take for you to prepare for the exam. Some of you have attended curricula that are integrated with USMLE, and some of you, like myself, did not. American students need less time to get prepared than IMGs, and they usually score better than IMGs. Also, I know people that were studying for 3 months and passed the exam, and I know people that studied 2.5 years and passed the exam. So, I mean, there are no really rules. I can tell my personal story. I was studied. I have studied for 11 months, but at least 3 months I did not learn as efficiently as I needed due to my busy schedule and the lack of motivation or the real way where to go. So I was wandering all around so many sources for studying to find the perfect way to read it all and know everything. And guess what? I lost these 3 months, and that is the loss of a precious time. It was such a time and motivation killer. So I have listed the mistake number 1 here, and that is do not waste weeks or months of your time searching for a perfect source for studying. There is no such entity. Also, I would like to add here, do not waste your time, a lot of your precious time, reading on forums and internet, all sorts of comments. Believe me, more than half of people that right there are just not going to even appear on that exam. So it's probably the loss of your time. Make sure to relax and to study efficiently, not to do this. Okay, next thing I would like to say to you is how I started. I started slowly with a couple video series from 2010, and I started with cytology, and then histology, and then I continued with general embryology, the first 4 weeks of the embryo and development. And during these 3 months, I was trying to really figure out how to use the first aid properly. I have even tried to use BRS series to read anatomy, but my personal experience was that the BRS series is just a waste of time if you want to prepare yourself within the next 6 months. If you have more time for preparation and more will to do so, you could use BRS. I am not saying that they're not good. I'm just saying that I didn't find it particularly high yield for the exam, or to put another way, I do not see any textbook and review book series to be incredibly efficient and beneficial once you start your preparation. I mean that their place is to build your knowledge base during the college and med school years, but not for step 1 preparation. but it does not imply that you should never use them or read some chapter to elucidate what you really do not understand, but do not use them in the dedicated period. It's not like the most efficient way. During this first 3 months of my preparation, I have finished histology, basic anatomy, genetics, and biochemistry. The next big mistake was that I did not use questions with every subject finished. I thought that I would pile up the topics I know and then start to do U World fast once I completed the majority of the first 8 chapters. I felt that studying will take most of my time and do all the questions with a shorter subscription of UWorld that would be cheaper. And oh man, how naive I was back then. So here we come to the next tip, and it's tip number 1, and that is to always prefer active learning. Active learning is what you want to have. Believe me, once you feel stress and struggle to find an answer and read every word in the question stem carefully to sort out the correct answer, that is what you want. That is the best way of studying. Everything you read, everything you review serves only one purpose, and that is to equip you with a knowledge base to become competent enough to spot even the slightest clues in a question stem that would lead you to the correct answer. Step 1 is all about that, using concepts, first building concepts and using the concepts, and sometimes, rarely, accrued information to find the best solution. Detailed data from first aid without integrating those into usable pieces of information will be forgotten soon. So it's not that of a use. All you want for your step 1 exam is to grow competent to do problem solving. And here we come to the tip number 2, and that tip is to start tackling the questions as soon as possible. But be careful, just do not start it too early. Start with passive studying. That is the easiest way for the beginning. I highly recommend the Boards and Beyond video series, and then make sure to note in the first aid everything you hear and that you don't find in the first aid, or you don't understand, or that you think that you will be needing some clarification. And after you've gone through videos, read all the first 8 papers regarding that chapter. Start doing the questions for that chapter and don't jump to another chapter until you finish every question and understand all possible answers. Read and try to understand why that answer is correct and why other options are incorrect. And here lies the gold. Dig it out, really. Dig it out. But one particular thing that I want to stress is that no matter how hard you work, there will be always tricky questions that you won't answer effortlessly. That you have to know that. And the golden rule is to read and try to understand why that answer is correct and why other options are incorrect. Of course, just don't take this tip too blindly. If the answer choice is, pretty much clear and you are sure that you are competent in that chapter, just do not waste your time. But I mean, if you are like 50-50 or something like that, just spend your time trying to dig out that gold. The next thing is tip number 4. And the tip number 4 is concentrate on quality, not quantity. So I've heard that most of you say something like, I'm going through my first aid for the first time. The first pass is terribly slow. I would like it to be fast. You know what? There is no fast passing of the questions. For me, it's better to get it once and go through the question bank once and hit it once, but hit it strong. And everything you just didn't understand or you were building some concepts, just write it down on your first aid or in your notebook on your computer, so that once you need that information, that piece of information, you just go and retrieve that information quickly and efficiently. And if you do not understand a particular topic, take your time to comprehend fully. Search for answers on Google, YouTube, throughout textbooks, but the textbooks should be the last line, because once you dive in it, you can feel exhausted. But all of the search for answers will pay off. Be sure for that. I wanted to tell you one story, and that is a story that once I tried to understand how the nephron works. I could not understand really how the countercurrent mechanism of the nephron works, and I spent a whole day trying only to understand this one mechanism, and at least 2 days for trying to figure out how to discern all types of glomerulonephritis. And I thought that it was a disastrous waste of time, and that is just wrong, because it's what you want to do. It's what you want. You want to have encounter with the tough information and to build your knowledge to become competent. Maybe you go through terribly slow, but at least do it the best possible way you can, and you would not need the second pass, believe me. And do not push yourself and focus yourself in a manner such as I have to do 200 questions a day, and not all days are the same. You have to know that. So here we go to the tip number 5, and that is to make sure to spend enough time studying most of the days, but know how to relax properly. Yeah, know how to relax. I used an effortless technique. No additional application was needed, only the timer on your phone. I set my timer on 2 hours and 30 minutes. When I start to read and study, if I have a little pause, no matter if the break is like 20 seconds or 2 hours, I stop the timer and resume only once I continue doing the work effectively. So I measure effective studying, not the time spent sitting nearby the book or the time spent in the library. And you have to celebrate even a little victory, because once the timer rings, the 2.5 hours, I hear it, and I have a little celebration in my head for my small but very significant victory in the day. Hey, from 0 minutes to 150 minutes of work, that's just a fantastic progress. It could be worse. So the more times I hear the bell, the happier I am at the end of the day. I was quite pleased and optimistic once I listened to the third ring. It was meaning that 7.5 hours of active work a day, and very proud of myself once the fourth ring rang, and that means 10 hours of active work. It was like the Pavlov experiment with a dog. I introduced the alarm as a positive reinforcement, and it reinforced me to study more. And you know what? We're just human. Some days were disappointing. Majority of the days were nothing more than just okay, while the minority of the days were really productive. But as the exam was approaching, my efficacy has risen exponentially. This timer should be used only to track your daily productivity as a crude indicator, not the goal for itself. And lastly, practice how to relax properly. Grab some time for yourself. My personal opinion is that the primary duty during those preparation days should be studying for the exam. Preoccupation with other activities would just hinder your progression. And of course, I do not include spending some time with your partner, a good friend, or doing some sports. You should relax. And start slow, you'll grow exponentially over time. Just you have to start it. Do not expect to study 10 hours or 8 hours the third day of your preparation. It just won't work. Okay. It's the lusitropy of your work. You have to know that. You have to know how to relax to relieve tension, and it will make you more productive, just as your heart does. Okay, so the tip number 6 is do not look upon how much you don't know, but focus on what you know. This tip is a big deal. If you focus on how much you have to do, you are just nanometers away from the continually raging disappointment and downfalling motivation. And guess what? With that attitude, you will probably fail your expectations or fulfill them with a newly installed mood disorder, such as a depression. You will start binge eating, binge drinking. So you have to build up your attitude and try to avoid disappointment and demotivation as much as possible. I wanted to say to you, be brave and believe in yourself. That is a big tip. But let's jump to the next one. And this one seems like a common sense, but I think that I should tell it. Try to keep your lifestyle as healthy as possible. I failed at this one heavily. That's why I would recommend staying active, eating healthy, and sleeping for a minimum of 7 hours a day, all or at least most of the preparation days. Looks like a silly tip, but it helps a lot. Sleep and eat well before the exam. If you go to the Prometric Center exhausted, you will deflate your score for a few points compared to a fully rested state of mind. The tip number 8 is no matter how hard you try, there will always be tricky questions that you feel incapable of solving. That is the whole point of tricky questions. You could not predict them nor learn how to handle them. Only a tiny fraction of exam questions are tricky ones, and probably many of those are experimental. With every hour of active studying, you're actively minimizing the possibility of encountering such a question, so keep that in mind. And the tip number 9 is do not use a ton of resources for studying, but if you have enough time, money, and will, feel free to use more than one question bank. This tip is like a safe haven for score boosting. My warmest recommendation is to use UWorld question bank and not to be frugal, it really pays off. The second recommendation is Ambus question bank, which has fewer but more detailed questions than UWorld overall. And as I have already said, active learning is the best. So tackling the questions is the best thing you can possibly do. I was using the Amboss question bank and I was sharing it with my friend, but I did not pass through all of the questions, so I cannot say that everything in there is good. The tip number 10 is to do at least one of the newer MBME self-assessments in the last 4 weeks of your preparation. And you have to know that. Do not practice self-assessments early in your course of preparation. It will just blow off your confidence. Newer MBMEs are incredibly accurate for a score prediction, but they're awful studying tools. So you want to use them in the last month or two of your preparation. And if you have enough money, do not hesitate to do your World Self-Assessment 1 and 2, but those two overestimate your score for 5 or more points and are much better late study tools than MBMEs. So your World Self-Assessments could be used as studying tools, not just assessment tools. And then we have the tip number 11. And this one, I think, is really motivating. And that is, do not compare yourself to others, only to yourself yesterday. Use yourself yesterday as a control for your personal trial. And as once the Vice President Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. Keep working hard on getting better every day. No matter how little progress you make a day, even a 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. And now I would like to list my resources. So, from video materials, I warmly suggest to do Boards and Beyond videos. I did not do questions. Kaplan videos are perfect for histology, general embryology, anatomy, and the best option for biochemistry and behavioral sciences. I mean, those two teachers are quite amusing. Pathoma videos for general pathology and reproductive pathology, but if you have enough time, I strongly recommend watching all lectures. From books, of course, first aid, please use the newest edition. My mistake was that I had first aid from 2017, and only in the last 4 weeks of my preparation before my exam I noticed a lot of add-ons and edits made between the 2017 and 2020. So buy the new one. BRS neuroanatomy. If you have trouble with it, with neuroanatomy, you should use BRS neuroanatomy. Also, very important, search YouTube video lectures about neuroanatomy, and I suggest watching ECLA's Health Sciences Library on YouTube. From question banks, of course, UWorld question bank, which is the mainstay, and AMBOS question bank, which I shared it with my friend. Self-assessments, UWorld self-assessment 1 and 2, and I have done UWorld self-assessment 1 about 10 days before my exam, and I scored 266, and at least I think it was 7 days before my for the UWorld self-assessment 2 was, I think, 7 days before my exam, and I scored 258. NBME forms 16, I scored 244, 19 I scored 236, and 23 in which I scored 251. So once I would like to repeat, at least pay for one newer NBMEs. As you can see, the NBME form 23 was the most accurate for me, and it was the newest one. And this site, predictmystepscore.com, is very accurate for score prediction, so use it. Review papers are free downloadable PDFs on PubMed. And I would like to share with you this one, the Patient-Centered Communication Basic Skills, by this name. I'm not sure that I could pronounce it the way it should be pronounced. And the next one, those two PDFs are really helpful for communication skills, and there are not a plenty of questions for communication skills on step 1 exam, but at least 3 to 5 of them you will encounter them, and if you're not comfortable with them, you just will deflate your score, and you could easily inflate your score for a few points if you know that. And others are free osmosis videos for many topics, especially glomerulonephritis. I have watched Strong Medicine YouTube channel, but I think they're just too detailed for step 1 and not a significant impact on the score. Crash YouTube channel for some topics such as HIV prevention, neonatal screening programs, and etc. I would like to say I did not use Sketchy, Anki, Kaplan QBank, USMLE RX, and etc., but it does not imply that I disapprove it. It's up to you to try out those resources and see if they fit you the most. And if you have some questions or suggestions, just write me in the comment section of this video or add me on my Instagram account, which is noted on this page. Well, if you find this video helpful, please click the like button and share with your friends. And if at least 100 likes on this video is reached, I will make a new video to tutor you how to tackle the questions like a pro. And thank you for your attention.